Hey, what's up? So we're in the middle of this series about spiritual health for leftists. And I know this is a touchy subject because I'm sure most of you, if not every single one of you leftists out there, have been accused of being so ungrateful for wanting a better world. So we're going to talk about real, radical gratitude, not that cheap gratitude. So, first of all, there is a very offensive aspect to telling people who have so little to just be grateful for the little they have, and that'll help them feel better about having so little. When we offer a small amount of benefits or charity to a poor family and make them feel like they must respond in gratitude and shame them if they respond by asking for more, we must realize that that's a form of tyrannizing over people's private lives. And this kind of tyranny is all over the place, perhaps most clearly in American nationalism. Don't you dare kneel during the national anthem. Don't you dare protest our government. Don't you dare speak out against those in power. You spoiled, ungrateful, bratty little kids. And they list every little thing that the government does do for us and use it to tyrannize our emotions and our desires, telling us you have no right to ask for anything else. And you are personally offending every single American if you ask for anything else. This is disgusting. And it ultimately pushes people to just accept the status quo, lick the boots of the rich and powerful, and shame each other for even imagining a better world, a different alternative to the way the things are going. But this is a cheap gratitude, a cheap grace, a deeper, more spiritual, and more ancient form of gratitude is one that goes way further than that. And I believe the rebels of history who sought to disobey and change things for the greater good were not less grateful than others in their society, but were actually more grateful. I'm talking about a gratitude that is so deep that it makes you want to see an even better society. This is real. Hear me out. People are severely lacking in gratitude these days, but it's largely in part to the constant messages we receive from corporations through advertising telling us that we don't have enough. We are exposed to thousands of ads per day that has just become the default backdrop to everyday life that is constantly telling us in order to be happy, you need to buy more and more and more. And this affects everyone. This is also why poor people sometimes make bad decisions and end up buying materialistic, excessive, expensive products because they are receiving the same message that sustenance isn't what makes us happy, but owning a whole range of the newest products is what makes us happy. Further screwing us all over as we go out and spend our limited funds on anything that'll hopefully satisfy us. We need gratitude now more than ever, but not the kind of gratitude that just accepts everything I just explained as the status quo that doesn't need to be changed. But we need the kind of gratitude that provides us with an alternative narrative to the narrative of lack that is constantly fed to us in order to keep the system intact. If we come to see that we only need what sustains us, that puts so many corporations out of business. The powers that be don't want you to experience real gratitude, because if we actually did, then we would come to see that we don't need to live the way that we are living. People question capitalism and call for the dismantling of capitalism and call for socialism, not because we are ungrateful. In reality, what we're saying is we as a nation have enough resources for everyone in this nation to be satisfied. And those of us who think we don't is because their idea of what it takes to be satisfied has been distorted and manipulated by our consumption-obsessed capitalist culture. Mary Jo Leddy, a Canadian theologian who houses refugees in Toronto with Romero House, wrote a book called Radical Gratitude. And in there she talked about an economy of grace. This is what she said. The mystery of the economy of grace is that the quality of God's love is enduring and free. It breaks through our attempts to quantify or contain it. That which is for free and for all is also forever. The economics of God's love are not based on the law of scarcity, but rather rooted in the mystery of superabundance. The personal or political decision to declare that there is not enough is the beginning of social cruelty, war, and violence on a petty or vast scale. On the other hand, the choice to affirm that there is enough for all is the beginning of social community, peace, and justice. The option to assume that there is enough frees the imagination to think of new political and economic possibilities. This is what I'm talking about when I talk about gratitude leading us to break free from the status quo and to change things. The Benedictine monk David Steindl-Rast wrote in his book, Gratefulness, the Heart of Prayer, there is a wave of gratefulness because people are becoming aware how important this is and how this can change our world. It can change our world in immensely important ways because if you're grateful, you're not fearful. And if you're not fearful, you're not violent. If you're grateful, you act out of a sense of enough and not of a sense of scarcity. And you are willing to share. If you are grateful, you are enjoying the differences between people and you are respectful to everybody. And that changes this power pyramid under which we live. Historical spiritual practices of gratitude were always meant to call us outward, not inward, like so many of the cheap gratitude practices talked about today. Several years ago, when I was in a season of deep depression and anxiety, I started to study daily prayer practices of Christian monks and Jewish rabbis and daily meditation practices of Buddhist monks. I was starving for something to bring me up, and I was surrounded by constant pressure around me, expecting me to be things I could never be. And during this time, I practiced all kinds of different stuff. But one of the most impactful things I came across was this old Jewish teaching that said you must say 100 blessings per day. A blessing is a short prayer of thanks, and there are several of these formal blessings written out for every activity you can imagine. You wake up and thank God for returning your soul within you. And then there's another one for thanking God for removing the slumber from your eyes. You go wash your hands and you say, "Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with your commandments and has commanded us regarding the washing of hands." And then when you end up going to the bathroom, there's even a formal blessing for going to the bathroom that I had memorized called the Asher Yatzar. You say, "Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who formed mankind in wisdom and created in him all manner of openings and cavities. It is manifest and known before the throne of your glory that if any one of them ruptured or were blocked, it would be impossible to stand before you. Blessed are you, Lord, who heals all flesh and is wonderful in his acts." And then you wash your hands and say that blessing too. And suddenly, one of the most mundane tasks of going to the bathroom becomes this sacred worship experience. Of course, I'm saying this all kind of tongue-in-cheek, but there is an added significance when you're able to slow down and realize that your body is a gift, and that your body working as it should is an even more tremendous gift. You were able to become aware that everything is a gift, from each and every breath you take to the colors and the nature around you. I remember the first day I attempted to say 100 blessings per day. I found myself at 50, dancing around, slapping the asphalt and yelling at my friends about how happy I am to be alive. Just a little personal mystical experience in my life. But back to this subject of radical gratitude, and let's finally bring up one of my heroes, Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel. Now, he had just barely escaped Nazi Germany and had fled to the US while his mother and siblings were killed by the Nazis. And while he was in the US, he became a part of the civil rights movement and marched with Martin Luther King, and he was very outspoken against the Vietnam War until he died in 1972. But this radical passion for justice arose out of his deeply radical gratitude. Also, during that depressing time of my life, I studied him a lot, and I found a bunch of different quotes of his about gratitude and awe and wonder and amazement, and strung them all together into one long quote and printed it out and taped it on my door, and I would read that every morning as well. Check this out. Our goal should be to live life in radical amazement. A philosophy of radical amazement is to be so in awe of every aspect of the world and its creator that one cannot help but do one's part to make it the best it can be. I could just stop right there, by the way, because that right there is basically what I'm trying to say this whole video. To be so in awe of the world that you make it the best it can be. Get up in the morning and look at the world in a way that takes nothing for granted. Wonder is a way of going beyond what is given in thing and thought, refusing to take anything for granted or regard anything as final. Everything is phenomenal. Everything is incredible. Never treat life casually. To be spiritual is to be amazed. An individual dies when they cease to be surprised. We must learn to be surprised. Don't be old. Don't be stale. The beginning of awe is wonder, and the beginning of wisdom is awe. What we cannot comprehend by analysis, we become aware of in awe. Wonder, rather than doubt, is the root of all knowledge. Who is worthy to be present at the constant unfolding of time? Just to be is a blessing. Just to live is holy. Prayer is our humble answer to the inconceivable surprise of living. It is all we can offer in return for the mystery by which we live. Never once in my life did I ask God for success or wisdom or power or fame. I asked for wonder, and He gave it to me. Think about all that. And think about being so in awe with every aspect of the world and its creator that you cannot help but do your part to make it the best it can be. That's what I'm talking about. We see that the most grateful in societies throughout all of history were the people who were so in love with the world and everything and everyone in it that they sought to make it better. This is the role of the saint in Christianity, the role of the prophet in Judaism, and the role of the bodhisattva in Buddhism. When talking about people who fought for justice throughout history, we find people who had a deep, radical gratitude, not the cheap gratitude that just accepts the status quo. And now there are several things you can do to be more grateful throughout the day. Of course, there's lists of things we can make to be grateful. There's prayers of thanks. There's personally thanking the people in your life throughout all your interactions. There's plenty of things you could do, and I'm sure plenty of you out there know some of the practices to do. The whole point of this series isn't necessarily to just give you all the practices and then you'd be like, oh yeah, of course, but to also really just give you the deep why for all these spiritual practices. So there's gratitude. Now, thank you for watching this video. Subscribe for more videos like this. If you want to hear me talk about this stuff in a more free-form, interactive way, follow me on Twitch. I've been streaming every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So hopefully I see you there tonight if you're watching this today. We've been having a lot of fun over there. And if you want to support me, I would greatly appreciate it. If you checked out my Patreon, patreon.com/Damon Garcia, you can support me. You can see some exclusive content that nobody else sees. I'd greatly appreciate it. And shout out to my patrons already there right now. Karen in Colorado, Ranger Jenny, Refined Your Scene, James Finlay, New Transcendentalist, Kristen Mouse, Rob Hutton, Jack, Jacob McCarthy, Theory Plebe, Mike Lodato, and Frank Morales. Thank you all. I appreciate you all. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.